Welcome into the official Jets podcast. Eric Allen here at One Jets Drive, joined by Jets tackle Morgan Moses. Does it feel like you never left?
Oh, man, it feels like home, man. You know, obviously being around the guys, the energy, obviously hearing everything about Aaron Rodgers, what he brings to the table. Just to be able to be around a guy that's, you know, been in so many meaningful games, so much football, and just see how he takes command of the offense. But just being around the guys, man, it's just, it's been fun, man. I'm excited.
So when you stepped out of here, post 2021, did you think you'd ever be back?
Look, man, it was crazy because, like, you know, I never really wanted to leave because I believed in the culture that was being set here. You know, Coach Saleh being a great coach, like he's one of those coaches that where you just want to run through the wall for, right? And that family atmosphere that he brings, man, is hard to find. So when you can get that in any organization, man, like football's easy, right? It just becomes the game that you fell in love with when you were 4 or 5 years old. You just come to work and you put a helmet on and you enjoy the game with your guys. So just being able to be back in the fold and be here and knowing that I have a mission that was not accomplished when I was here in 2021, it set some standards for me. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to give back.
But could you see something developing in 2021? Because you guys took a couple lumps along the way. That was a trying year.
Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you this, man. I'm gonna tell you this. And then one thing about it, like we lost a lot of games in 2021. You know, everything was kind of new. You know, new quarterback, new system. You're kind of learning everything. But the energy, man, the energy that was put into everything we did, you knew like all we had to do is flip the roster a little bit, right? And then that following year, it was like Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson in the first round. And it's like 3 foundational first round picks, right? That you can move on forward. And then like, you know, I've always been a fan, so I've watched a lot of football games, and then you get the quarterback, right? You get Aaron Rodgers, and you're like, look, this is it. And just to have, you know, see after, you know, play 4, him go down is just like a blow to the face. But it's exciting, man, seeing him run around now, healthy, you know, commanding the offense, and just being able to watch him throw the football, man. It's like, dude, it's flawless, man. It's a work of art. But no, man, we're here now, man. We're here.
Well, speaking of culture, what were the past 2 years like for you in Baltimore? Because talk about a winning culture, predominantly, they're there. At the end of the day, in January, you can pen the Ravens in. They're going to be playing postseason football.
100%, man. And I think that's part of the growth process that I went through, right? Like, you know, everybody, you know, you always say that God always has a plan, right? And so I think that plan was like when I left here in 2021 is I went to Baltimore and I got to learn how a functional organization really does it, like what it takes to go out there and compete at a Super Bowl level every day in practice, the attention to details, being challenged against the defense every day, right? And now that I've been there for 2 years and I got to see how that was done every day on a high level through an organization that's been, I mean, in the playoffs for the last 20 years. You know, I can bring even more to the table because I've been there. I've been there 1 game from the Super Bowl. I know what that tastes like, and obviously not making it to the Super Bowl, like you become even hungrier, right?
Yeah.
So being able to have that you know, face those things, face that adversity, losing that game against Kansas City, and still, you know, going into year 11 and still having that, you know, that edge to go out there and do it some more, to be able to bring that foundation here, I'm looking forward to it.
So what's the backstory with the torn pec in week 4? And who knew about it?
Oh, man, you have to ask John Simpson about that, man. But we're playing Cleveland, and I'm just like, I'm blocking Myles Garrett, and I'm just like, yo, the first thing I was like, no lie, I was like, I'm having a heart attack.
Really?
I was like, no lie, I'm like, bro, I'm having a heart attack. I can't breathe. And then I went back in halftime, and they were like, yeah, bro, I think you like strained your pec. So obviously I didn't finish the game, and I went and got an MRI that next day, and they're like, yo, you tore 60% of your pec. And so I'm sitting there like, all right. And everybody's like, hey, man, just shut it down. You know, you did what you were supposed to. And I'm like, no, like, look, because I believed in the work that we put in all training camp, right? Like, you go through training camp, which is like a war, right, for guys. Like, and you're bleeding on the field, you're sweat, blood, and tears with these guys. And the last thing you want to do is feel like you giving up on them. And I just told them, hey, look, just give me some time, man. Give me some time. I'm going to figure it out. And, you know, I missed that first game. That was like the first game I missed in my career, which was like a humbling experience because like I had to understand like, hey, this is a marathon and not a race. And, I was able to power through it with, just great PT, doing things on my own, knowing how to, navigate. And, I was able to finish the season with the torn pec, man. So it was hard, man, like trying to hide the strap, wearing long T-shirts in the game and trying to tape it the same color, things like that. Just so, all these great defenders that you go against every Sunday wouldn't notice. But I was able to battle through it, man. It made me a better person. It made me dig deep. And I, simply, man, I just didn't want to give up on my guys, and that's always been my thing in the league is just like, give it your all until you can't anymore.
Can you speak to the pain though? I mean, you're a tough guy. You said it felt initially like, what the hell is going on here? Am I having a heart attack? But you played the rest of the season, dude. It was with a torn pec.
It was some days, man. It was some days after games, man, where like I couldn't lift my arm. And like, thank God, like my kids are like, my children, like they love me so much, man. They're like, Daddy, what you need, man? I'm like, thank you. Like, but it was days where like I couldn't lift my arm. And to be honest with you, I didn't miss any practices. Like, because like my makeup is like, I gotta practice. Like, I'm not this guy that's like been blessed where I can just go out there and not practice and just ball out. Like, so I was practicing, going through it, man. And I just think like over the time, man, like I think we got to like week 13 and I was already like back single arm benching 115 pounds on it, single arm. And so like the work of just going through the PT, staying up late night, having doctors come into the house, work on me, physical therapy and things like that, really helped me push through. So it was a journey. But
so like you're doing dumbbell.
Come on, yeah.
115
single arm with a torn pec.
Oh. As far as Baltimore is concerned, I talked to John Harbaugh about you. He loved you.
Yeah.
He said in a perfect world, he'd still be here, but obviously football is a business. What did you learn most from him in the couple of years you were there?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you this, man. Like, and I had no idea, like, right when I left here, that Baltimore was gonna be the landing spot, right? But I remember him calling me, and the first thing he said was like, man, and he said something like, "Isn't God something?" And I was like, hold on, man. The first thing he said to me is he's talking about God, right? And he remembered this, like his memory goes back. He's like, remember we worked you out in the draft process about 3 or 4 times, and like we loved you. We just couldn't get you here. And now, 9 years later down the road, we got you here. Yeah. And so it was meant to be. But like just being able to go to an organization that was so solid from head to toe, man. How they treat everybody in that building, how it was so much fun to come to work and not have to deal with everything outside. Just come in and just really, play football, right? And that's the key, right? Like when you have that opportunity where everything else is taken care of and you can walk into the building and you can focus on football, like you become a better football player naturally, right? Because you can focus on those things. So the things that he's done over the course of the years, man, the years he's been there, I think it was like 16 years or something like that. The values, the foundations that he set for that football team has been outstanding. And, you can see why they go out there and play like that every Sunday, and it's been a pleasure to be able to be a part of that. We didn't win it all like we were supposed to, like we thought we were going to do, but we did some great things throughout the season. We got an MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who's one of a kind. We led the league in rushing, all those things that, you set out in the beginning of the season and say, hey, we want to be this type of team. We became that. We just fell short at that time. But it was a wonderful time being there, man.
For you personally, what did the win over Houston mean? Because you now, as far as your career is concerned, 5 playoff games, but that was the first one that you were able to experience victory.
Yeah, man, it was exciting, man. And like, let me tell you something, like when you're doing something like that and you get to enjoy it, like really enjoy it, like it's fun going out there preparing for a playoff game, knowing that like you have the opportunity to dominate a team. It's an unmatched feeling, right? And that was my first time going to the playoffs, and really like I think that was Baltimore's first home playoff game that they had won. And so like that was another mark that, out of history in that organization that we had faced and then we had, got off the board. But like just in the way we won that game, like I don't know if you remember, if you watched it, like we ran the ball like 20 times straight to seal that game. And that's what like you want as an offensive lineman, right? You want to say, hey man, when the game's on the line, it's clutch time. We want the ball in Breece Hall's hands. We want the ball in our running back's hand, finishing, moving forward. And it was no unmatched feeling, man. You can't you can't put a number on that.
All right, so what can you tell us about John Simpson? Because free agency starts here. Joe Douglas, kind of under the radar, he scoops up this guard from Baltimore.
I'll tell you this. John, he came from, we had got him like mid-year in Baltimore from the Raiders.
Yep.
And, ups and downs as a player, and he'll tell you this, like he was trying to figure it out, whether he had good coaching at the Raiders or not, whatever the case is. John was this quiet guy, like the guy that you see now that walks around that can't be quiet. That wasn't John. Like I tell everybody, like I don't even remember John when he first got to Baltimore. Like I tell John all the time, like you had dreads when you got to Baltimore. Like you had these long dreadlocks, and like just to see like a guy come in, buy into the culture first of all, right, which is hard to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
To buy into a winning culture, to like forget everything that you learned and like, hey, like I got to relearn how to play football this way. And like when we went into that, last year when we went into the season, like the question was like, who's going to play left guard? Yeah. Like there's nobody on the roster that like they felt like was comfortable like playing left guard.
Right.
And just to see him day one walk in there and just man that position and say, look, I'm going to be this guy and I'm going to be this guy for a long time. And, thankfully that he got here, because now it's like I got somebody that I'm comfortable with, that I know he knows. But just being able to see the makeup and the transition that he made, the strides he made throughout the year, man, he's a special player, man.
How much noise is happening inside the trenches? Because you're such a good dude. You got a lot of personality, but at the same time, man, you love the hand-to-hand combat. And I'm talking about you specifically in Simpson, because there are some NFL films clips of Simpson saying, getting after dudes. And I know you got to love that.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's like, it's one game, no lie.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was Cleveland, because I was on the sideline. I think it was the Cleveland game I got hurt. And I see John run across the line. He's pulling, and he smacks this DN. No lie. And I look at Coach. I said, Coach, I think John's dead. Like he smacks this guy and he like folds on the ground. I'm like, Coach, like me and some of the other guys are sitting on the sideline like, I think John's soul left his body. And he just pops up and like he gets in the huddle and he's just ready to go. Yeah. But that's the type of guy he is, man. Like it's a guy that's going to run through a wall. And I think there's no better place to be than here to play for a coach like Coach Sala, where like you're going to run through a wall every day. Mm-hmm. And I think when the biggest thing is like accepting that challenge, right? Accepting that like, hey, I got to go against somebody great every day in Quentin Williams, a great defense, and that's going to challenge me every day to be the best that I can. And when you have that going back and forth on the offense and defensive line, the sky's the limit, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter what skill positions you have throughout the league, the game is won up front. It's never changed. It's been like that for 100 years since football has been, been here. Like it's won in the trenches. So when you have guys that are really, really ready to compete at that level and really leave it all out there, that's the difference.
All right, from a tackle perspective, what does Tyron Smith bring to the table? What makes him different?
Dude, I've been blessed, man. Like, because I had Trent Williams for 5-6 years in Washington, right? And I got to see Tyron on the other side playing against Dallas a lot of my career for 7 years, and just to see like the makeup, and we can relate a lot, right? Because we both had the same offensive line coach in Bill Callahan, so we can relate a lot into like the work.
One of the best ever,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. And you see why why a guy like Tyron is just like, I mean, his passes are flawless. Like I wish I could just bottle him up, put him in the refrigerator, and and just like, hey, like this is what a pass set looks like. And just the consistency he plays with every day in every game. And for me, I was excited when we signed him, right? Because I know I'm an 11-year vet, but like at the end of the day, like I'm always trying to learn. And I'm like, when we signed him, I'm like, great. I got a guy that's like technically sound in everything you want him to do, run blocking, pass blocking, he does it such at a high level. So for me, it's like, man, I can pick his brain to make myself better, right? And just to be around him, man, he's such a wonderful person, man. And he's going to raise the bar for a lot of us, man. Just what he's done in his 14-year career so far. You want to say he's a walking Hall of Famer for sure, right? So
to your point, definitely 2 Hall of Fame tackles that you've played with.
Yeah, 100%.
And with Trent.
Yeah.
And Tyron. Everything Tyron does when you watch him seems like you're thinking to yourself, master technician. Like there's nothing clumsy about any kind of his movement. It's so smooth.
There's no wasted movement.
Yeah.
it's like watching it, like, especially like his, like when he's punching in pass protection, like his hand placement is so solid and on point, like his pinpoint. It's like throwing a dagger into the wall. Like, he's hitting the bullseye 20 out of 21 times. And the efficiency of how he plays the game, it's no wonder why he's been in Dallas for so long, right? Because it's hard to replace a tackle like that.
Yeah.
So for him to be able to be here with us, it's a blessing, man. So you got him, you got John, two guys that's proven themselves throughout the league, and obviously is willing to do anything to keep on winning. So to be able to have them is a great addition to the offensive line.
All right, I think you were a 3rd-round pick out of Virginia.
Yep.
What's your reaction there after signing with the Jets and Tyron coming on board as well? And the Jets in the 1st round get Olu Fashanu. And how do you, as a veteran and established guy who's played more than a decade in this game, Morgan? Not a lot of dudes can say that. Not a lot of dudes can say that. Say, you know what? This is a good situation for him. I'm going to help this dude.
I think, right, like, I think the number one thing is, right, like, and I learned this from Trent, right?
Yeah.
Is like when you got an opportunity to play with a great tackle for so long, right? All they ask for you to do is pass it down, right? Pass the torch down. And I think when you're able to, like, I never want to be that guy that's like, man, I'm not going to help nobody. Like, right? Because at the end of the day, we all sit at a table together and we all got to eat, right? So whether I help Olu, whether I help Tyron, whether I help Carter Warren, whatever the case is, they're going to push me to another level because I see them getting better, right? And that's the beauty of this, right? Like, it's iron sharpened iron. Like, offensive line is the one position where, like, everything we do is on a shoestring, right? Like, you want that shoestring to go through the sneaker as flawless and as smooth as possible. So it doesn't matter, like, in the trenches, you're going to have guys that are going to get hurt. You're going to have guys that, bust a shoelace and somebody got to go in for a couple of plays. And you always want whoever's stepping in to feel so comfortable to the point that, like, they know the guys that they've been working with through training camp, OTAs, believe in them. And so when they go out there, they play with an intent that's flawless, right? Because they understand that, like, I'm not a backup. I'm a guy that's worthy to be on this offensive line. These guys trust me. I've worked my tail off for this moment. And whether it's for 2 plays or 3 games that I got to fill in, I'm going to be the best that I can. And you can trust a guy like that, So when you've been through the league 10, 11 years and you're able to, share that knowledge of the game, it just makes everybody better, man. It's iron sharpened iron. That person pushes you push that person, and you get the best out of everybody.
Do you like his talent and his approach? I know it's in the early impressions for you. It's not like you've spent a ton of time with him, but you're a Virginia kid, and he obviously grew up in Maryland, went to school in Gonzaga High School before playing collegiately at Penn State.
No, 100%, man. Obviously, what he's done in his 4 years in college, or was it 3 years in college, whatever it was. I think I read something that he didn't give up a sack in like 3 years or something like that, right? That's amazing, right? And you always look for, an offensive line now, right? Because, like, in college, like, nobody really truly pass hits anymore. The ball is just getting spread out to all these skill players, right? The number one thing you want to look is you want to find a guy that's going to fit the culture of the room, right? And he fits that culture of the room. He's willing to learn, like, he's willing to, sit back and ask questions, and he feels comfortable. Being 20, 21 years old, coming into a NFL league with grown men and understanding, like, hey, this is not the same. Like, these are guys that have family to feed, and they're this is not college where, I got to take these things serious. But for him to be a sponge and ask questions and learn how this thing goes is only going to benefit him in the long run. So he's a great dude, man. I look forward to, working with him. And I look forward to learning from him, right? Because at the end of the day, like, there's some things that he's done in college that I probably didn't do 10, 11 years ago, right? And so, like, and that's the beauty of it. Like, football is always evolving. So whether you're old, young, whatever the case is, you can all learn from everybody.
You guys are a unique group, the offensive line. I always watch the rooms and see who's hanging out with who. And I think offensive linemen are different, like, in a good way. How quickly does it have to come together? As far as you got Tyron at left tackle, you got AVT returning from injury, you got Joe Tippmann at the center position, and John, whereas you all are veterans, but you haven't played together.
Yeah. You know, and that's the thing, you know, that's the beauty of OTAs and, you know, training camp and things like that. OTAs is a little less contact and stuff out there, but you know, OTAs is for getting the guys together, you know, outside of the building, going to eat dinner. I think the fellas went to a concert, you know, last week. That's things, right? Like you're getting to know your teammates. You're getting to know them outside of football. So when you go to war with them, you got no question about that guy. You know, it's like the movie 300, right? You do everything together, right? So when you go to war, when I'm standing at that battlefield, I have no question about John Simpson having my back. I got no question about AVT having my back. You know, it's pretty much let's strap the helmets up and let's go, man. You know, and so when you create that atmosphere between the line, and like I said, that's like the one position where like we never get a sub. We never, you know, it's no, hey coach, I'm tired. Can I get out? You know, we never get off the field. Like it's five people that work consistently together. So when you create that camaraderie in the offensive line, man, it's a beautiful thing, man. Like I said, it's that shoelace that go through that sneaker that's flawless and goes through smooth.
What's the difference in blocking systems?
You know, I think for me, I've been in a lot of systems.
Yeah.
So like, you know, being in this West Coast offense, you know, I had Sean McVay when I was in Washington. So I'm very versed in that. But just being around the league, and I think the thing about changing systems, right, it challenges you mentally, physically, and all those things, right? Because like it's another opportunity that I can learn more. And I think the biggest thing is like having a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who sees the field so well and can change, you know, whether it's cover 0, cover 2, cover 3, and we're in a run play and he wants to get to, you know, pass protection. For him to be able to do that like that, it's just like the mental aspect of like, okay, I really got to hone in on those things. I got to learn his voice. I got to learn and start seeing things that he sees. And I think when you do that, it raises your IQ of football as well.
Can you speak to his football acumen, Aaron?
I'm telling you, it's a reason why he's been in the league for so long and why he's been named with some of the greatest quarterbacks in the league. The makeup that he does every day, man, just like to see him go out there and sling the ball around like he's 10 years old, having fun and still doing that. And as a older guy that's still trying to get to where he's at, right?
Yeah.
You see a guy go out there that's not complaining, moaning about things. He's just going out there having fun and let it rip. For a guy that's trying to get there, or the younger guys are trying to get to that level, to see a guy like that go out there and do it every day, it's refreshing, because then you get into your mind like, hey, I can do that, you know? If he's still doing that at 30 some years old, like I definitely can do that at 20 something, right? That's how the young guys see it. So it's special, man.
He's genuinely having fun, isn't he?
He's having fun.
Because he's an extension of the coaching staff. Like, people ask me, what's it like watching him? Yeah, his arm's incredible, no doubt. And he sees the field like nobody I've watched. But also, he's got a bounce in his step, and he loves being around the guys, right?
And that's that feeling that, like, you know, that he loves football, right? There's no question, man. Like even me sitting back watching them and him doing the throws off the 1 foot, like, I mean, I'm not going to say that I can do that, but I've definitely tried that with my kids in the backyard.
You're probably doing that at home.
You know, I'm trying it at home. Like, hey, y'all, hey, I'm Aaron Rodgers today, y'all, you know. But
like,
just,
the one pass today where I think he's looking down the left sideline. So, like, I look towards the camera. He's looking down the left sideline, and he throws the ball to the middle of the field. Pinpoint, great accuracy,
dude. And it's like the way the ball just releases out his hand, right? And to be able to do that on 1 foot is just like, right? Like we look at like Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not taking anything away from Patrick Mahomes. He's a great quarterback, great guy, I'm pretty sure. But like Aaron's been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Years, you know what I'm saying? And like the velocity of the ball that he still has, when it's just like, dude, this, I mean, you can't compare it.
How interesting is this for you, though, coming off playing with one of the game's great dual threats in Lamar and now coming to Aaron?
Dude, that's I'm gonna tell you this, man. Like, you couldn't ask for any better situation as an offensive line, right?
Yeah.
Like to see, like, to be with Lamar, like, I call him Magic, man. Like, the only way you can explain it is like it's a video game. That's the only way you can explain it. Like the things he does in practice every day, to see how he throws the ball, and everybody had these questions about, like, is he a real true passer? And then, you know, you finally got some receivers that you can go in there and trust and things like that. And you just see the development that he had of, like, just taking the new offense. We're in Baltimore. And then now just to go to like Aaron Rodgers, who just like has been playing football for a very long time, but just like like you said, like he's a coach on the field, right? Like he's a coach. Like what he demands, the excellence that he demands every day out of guys, and just like the position he puts players in to succeed, right? That's the key, right? It's like I can be a great football player, I can be a great leader, but the difference is, can I make the people around me better?
Yeah.
And that's what he does.
That's a great point. What's spring and summer looking like for you? Because you're working off to the side. Here's OTAs began. You had off-season surgery. So what's the process going to be like now for you?
I'm feeling great, man. Honestly, man, like I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot here, but like maybe I will. But if we had to play today, I would be playing.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that.
Well,
I'll be playing.
Of course you would.
Like
you played with a torn pec last year. Of course you would.
If I had to play today, I would be playing. But obviously, it's a marathon and not a race, right? So. Just taking it day by day, listening to the people that I need to listen to. I feel great. I'm on this great regimen of, building upper body strength and things. But just really be honest with you, just being out there in practice and just running around the guys, whether it's during warm up, listening to music and just laughing with the guys, man, like you can't beat that, right?
Yeah.
So just the energy out here, right? Like I tell everybody, like, man, it sucks, man. I got to do pass sets on air. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's all the same thing, right? Like at the end of the day, like you're paying attention to the details, you're around the guys, you're having fun, you're learning the guys, right? And so it's exciting, man. Like it's exciting just to get back. It's excited to get back in the fold. It's excited to learn the team, learn the teammates, and just go through this grind, man. Because it's a beautiful thing. Once it's gone, right? So you got to cherish it while you can.
Well, to that point, believe me, you're a young dude, but by NFL standards, you're an old guy. Yeah, at 33. Yeah. When you left UVA, did you think that, hey, down the line, I could be doing this 11, 12 years later?
Dude, I've always believed in myself, right? Yeah. Like I think the combine was like a hit to the face for me because like I hate my combine experience, but like
really,
yeah. Like I got written up as this guy that was going to have a lot of injuries in his career, and then they were right. I had a lot of surgeries in my career, but what they didn't measure was the heart, right?
Yeah.
And so like I think obviously being 33 years old, going to year 11, but to be honest with you, man, I still got 5 years in the tank.
Yeah,
like that's how I feel. Even with the surgery, man, I feel fantastic, man. So like, and I always tell myself, man, as long as I can come to this game and I feel like I can give back to this game and I feel like I can still learn, and that's the thing, right? Like I feel like I still have so much to learn about football. And I think when you have that mindset, and I call it the growth mindset, right? When you have that growth mindset, I mean, the things that you can accomplish is unbelievable.
Do you think, with what you guys have as far as the roster is concerned, and Brees behind you, and a number of young running backs, that it's going to be a pick your poison for opposing defenses? Because we got a Hall of Fame passer back here. We got some weapons on the outside. We got Garrett. We got Mike Williams. We drafted Corley. We got Lazard coming back. I could go on. Brownlee's had a nice camp and made a catch out there today. But, then you got the stud in the backfield, Brees. Whereas, okay, you guys, if you're going to load the box up against us, I got a Hall of Fame passer behind me. You to go light box, we're going to pound you all day long.
I think the craziest thing, right, because like I said, I've been watching a lot of football, the Jets, man, obviously, rooting from them from afar. And my question last year was like, yo, why is Dalvin Cook not getting the ball, right? Like Dalvin's this great running back out of Minnesota, right? Yeah. And then in training camp, I think it was like Breece Hall's first practice. Yeah. And he hit like 22 miles per hour. And I said, oh, okay. That's why.
So what were you watching last year? Hard Knocks or One Jets Run? Were you watching them all or what?
I was watching the Hard Knocks, man. Like I was watching Hard Knocks and I was like, okay, this guy just hit 22 miles per hour. Like I understand why, right? And so like, obviously, man, the roster is what it is. And obviously it looks great, right? Everybody can be the paper champion, right? Like we can run that script all day, right? But the beauty of football, like no matter what your team looks like, you got to line up on Sundays, right? Yeah. Like, for example, like you see last year with the Cleveland Browns, like down a quarterback with Deshaun Watson, then you get old school Joe Flacco in there and they make a run, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of football. Like, you never know when a team is going to hit the hot streak. So right now, for us, it's like being able to learn each other on this roster, understand these guys, the strength and the weaknesses of your teammates, so you can fill that void in. And that way, when we get out there September, against San Francisco, it's flawless, right?
Yeah.
And the game is never flawless, right? You're always going to make mistakes, but like, how can I learn from the mistakes and not make those mistakes again? How can my teammates keep me accountable? How does my coaches know I take in information versus being on the field or in the study room? All those things are things that you're learning right now. So when you get to training camp, you can hit the ground running. So like I don't want to get caught up in the paper champ and of what the roster looks like, because at the end of the day, we're talented. Like, we're a talented group, and obviously having Aaron healthy, that makes a lot of difference. But that defense, dude,
Yeah.
I mean, to win 7 games with that defense on the field 90% of the time, like, you gotta be excited about what's going to happen this year, right?
So your feet are right here in the moment. But have you thought, as somebody who has that experience of being here back in 21, have you thought what it would be like to win here? Or you don't let yourself even get there and you say, hey, listen, take care of business?
It's hard, man. It's hard to like not think about it, especially because I remember the first time I ran out the tunnel at MetLife Stadium as a Jet, and just to hear that chant, the JETS, Jets. That's a fan base, bro, that's like been wanting like wins for a long time, right? Like, it's hard to come across great fans in this league, great fans that are going to be that's going to stick with you through thick and thin. And so just the honor to be able to grace the field and try to give them that, that victory, or to give them that playoff appearance that they haven't had in a long time, not only for ourselves, but for the community, right? You've seen how the Knicks, the Knicks took over and how New York was when the Knicks were in the playoffs, right? Like, for them to win, round 1 and, get into round 2, you win here, dude, life is different, right? For everybody. Yeah. Everybody in this building, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, because they've been waiting for it for so long. So, it's hard not to get caught up into it, man. But, obviously we got to take care of business. We got to do the things that we need to do. But, definitely this fan base deserves it.
So how much are you going to be benching when you get the chest 100%?
Look, I'm not going to get in this benching competition anymore.
Maybe what you're doing with the sets.
I'll definitely be, back in the 400s here pretty soon. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of taking one day at a time. Like, there's days where I feel amazing, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to hit it today. And I got to remind myself, like, hey, slow down, brother, But and obviously being out here with these guys, it make you feel that way. Like, it's like, because you're, you feel like you're missing a part of a big part of the season, and I think Aaron told me the other day, because I was like, I went in the training room, I was like, yo, I want to hit a bag today. Yeah. And Aaron was like, hold up, buddy, we don't need you right now. And I'm like, well, I got to listen. Aaron said it, right? So I guess I'm going to do my little pass sets on the air and stuff like that. But just the culture around here, man, and you can see it in everybody's face, from the lunch people, from the custodians, to everybody that works in this building, that it's something very special here, and they've been waiting for it for a long time. And obviously last year with Aaron getting hurt, the season was kind of, put down the drain, but just to be able to have that level of excitement back in the building, man, it's a fantastic feeling.
How many times have you faced Reddick before?
See, I faced Reddick, the young. I mean, he's still young. Don't get me wrong when I say this. Like, young Reddick in Arizona.
Okay.
And when he was in Arizona,
so they were using him as like an off the ball linebacker at that point, right?
And that was like always the thing. Like this dude is he's a special guy, right? Like, and then obviously Bryce was the same way. Bryce Huff was the same way, right? Like. Because I was here in 2021, and he was like a practice squad flux guy that kind of was on the 53-man roster, but dude gave you hell in practice every day. Like, he went balls to the wall every day in practice. And so, playing Hassan in Arizona, you always felt like he was kind of mishandled a little bit, right? And then he gets to Philly, and you're like, 16 sacks, 18 sacks, Like, this dude is he's a dog, bro. And I think he said it well on his interview here when he first got traded, is yo, we got some dogs in this locker room, right? And when you got some dogs in this locker room, you can compete at a high level, because they're going to challenge everybody who's not a dog or is not a dog yet in this locker room to be a dog. And when you have that, when I say iron sharpens iron, when you have that mentality throughout the locker room, I mean, you can face anybody.
Got a lot of dogs here. Morgan Moses, we're so happy you're back in the building. I know the fan base is pumped as well. And your family looking forward to coming back up north or what?
Yeah, man, the boys are excited, man. Like they're like, Dad, like we got to meet Lamar Jackson, and now we get to meet Aaron Rodgers and Sauce Gardner, and I'm like, so they're excited, man. Like they're excited to be back here. Obviously, we had a great time when we were here. You know, great family time. Just what they do as a team and involve the families. You know, the cookouts and things like that. Has always been great. So I look forward to it, man. Like my son is already like, Dad, like you're gonna win the Super Bowl this year. I know it. Mind you that like he cried his heart out when we lost last year. Like he was asking me like since the Houston game in the first round, like, Dad, you gonna take me to the Super Bowl? Dad, you gonna take me to the Super Bowl? He told all his friends in school. They told all their kids, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Unfinished business from his lips to God's ears.
Yes,
maybe it
unfinished
happens
business
this year.
Unfinished business.
Good seeing you.
Always, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.